This is the Progressive Web Apps Workshop syllabus, and we're going to have a look at the app that we build step by step through each of the features. And we'll go to a new tab, and before I open it, have a look around here. Google Chrome will detect whether it's a progressive web app or not and offer us some options. So I'm going to go into the application, and it detects that it's a PWA, bring our attention to it. We can add it to the home screen, so we're going to do that now. And we see we get the app, the full screen sort of version. We can do that here. We have many different options of changing this here, the icon. We can change the colors, the flash screens, etc. If we ever want to uninstall it, we go in here. That's the way we remove it. And what we will do now is we'll go into the desktop, and we can see the icon, which is customizable. It's an icon of a choice. If we go in here and click it, this will open up now our desktop application. So we'll go ahead, we'll uninstall it, move all the details. That's going to remove this icon now, and that is done. So that is the demo app that we're starting to build in the workshop. The first things that we've got is the native UI look and feel and the add to home screen feature. We can also allow the user to add to the home screen at a point of their choosing. When we built a connection and rapport, we saw how we could do it originally here when we load in the app, either on the mobile device or on the desktop. But we can also give them a user clickable event that can be done at any point where we feel it's appropriate, and this is encouraged by Google to make it an appropriately timed event. We can enable notifications and allow the user to select when they want to do this, and Google generally advises that we give this facility to a user once we've at an appropriate point in the process on the site, rather than displaying it automatically initially. So if we come up here, we click it, we see the show notifications request, and we see a notification come through. This is fully customizable, and we'll see different variables. So this is the final version of the app that we build. We've already seen how we've been able to install it to the home screen. We've also seen how we can enable notifications, and if we look in here, we can now re-enable them, and we get the customizable notification, and we'll look at various ways of customizing that. And the way this particular application is done is it loads all the data on the home page, loading them into IndexedDB, which we will cover. And this is designed to be like an app that you go to the home page and then it has all the information you need for the rest of the day. We also have a form that we can fill offline as well. So first things, let's go to posts. We can see all the posts here. Let's go to DevTools. And what we're going to go is go into network. We're going to go offline. And if we go back into posts, I've shaded it out because it knows it's offline. We can click on a post, go back, and if you can see here, we're getting actually all our files from the service worker, which we will cover. And an important thing to note is actually the speed, the time it takes. If I can just move this here, it's under 100 milliseconds. The brain recognizes anything under 100 milliseconds as being instantaneous, so it's going to the local device on the browser. And what we can do is we can go in here, and what we've done is we've loaded into IndexedDB, the native browser, all of the posts here. We took 10 sample posts, home page body, a post with, etc. We've loaded them in here. We've also loaded contacts from randomuser.me, which we'll see in the contact section, and we've also loaded in a lot of cache pages in advance, dynamic ones and pre-cache, which we'll get into. And so basically what the app does is it stores all the app shell images in these pre-caches. If it ever goes to a page that it hasn't saved, it will store it dynamically. And we can see that now that while we're offline, what we're going to do is change this and look for a page, and as you can see, it's not loaded. Now we're offline, we've never loaded that page in, so we can offer a graceful fallback page rather than getting the dinosaur. Now if we come back online, and we go back to application, and if we look here at the dynamic cache, we can see where we're at here, up to 10. If I now load this page, in here, we can see it's now been loaded into this dynamic cache. So if we ever go offline, it's now stored and can be retrieved. Detect we're offline. That's a little bit of code we've got there with the navigator online object, and there we have it, we're offline, so we can see it. So what we've seen with this offline facility is that we can preload information in, either pages or data, into IndexedDB. We can then retrieve them from the cache for very fast access if we're using a strategy of cache first then network. If we request a page that we haven't got in our dynamic cache or pre-cache, we get a graceful fallback page to enhance the user experience. And once that page is loaded in, it's saved in the cache, and on future uses will be made available from the cache. So we go back to posts, we go back online, there we have all the posts that we've linked. We've seen how they work offline. If we were suddenly there and we go offline, we see them there. We've also loaded in contacts, and we saw that in application, that down here we went to random user me and got all these contacts. They're stored in the local database on the browser. Here they are. So now we've seen how we kind of getting information offline and online. We will now move on to having a look at how we can post information when we're offline that'll be sent to the server when the connection is restored and the browser does not need to be open. So we'll have a look at that now. So we'll now look at how form works offline. Firstly, let's go offline, and we're using the navigator online object just to detect that we can tell the user they're offline, and for demo purposes I've just shaded it grey. If we now go to the console, let's just type in some sample data. We click send. We notice I'm just displaying some events here, how we've stored the data. If we now go to the application tab, we can now see that in local forage here, a different library, we've now stored this data. The form hasn't yet been sent. If we now go back online, we see a notification coming through that says our form has been sent. And if we look at the console, we can see that this is where the email data was stored when we sent the form offline. Then this event occurred when we were back online. So let's reproduce that again to show those facilities. We're offline. Let's go into the console. We'll clear everything. We'll send the data. We can say email data stored. We've seen that. As soon as we go back into online, go back into console, we can see there's a sync event. It's heard a special event which we've registered, and once we're back online, this event gets fired and it then sends the data, and we saw that notification come through. There it is, and this can be customized in different forms. We have the options to do that. We don't have to send a notification, but this will also work if the browser is closed down, because the service worker, the magical file that does the progressive web app features, basically is not part of the browser being open. It's a system-wide file. Although it is stored on the website, it connects the two, and therefore the browser can be closed, and once the data is sent, the notification comes through. So to recap, this is the application we built. We've seen the add to home screen facilities both on initial detection and also on the buttons. We've seen how we can enable notifications and then also get a notification come through that we can customize. We can even have a dialog box for yes, no, different options. We've seen how we've loaded in the posts and that these have been visible even when offline because we've loaded them in IndexedDB. We've seen the use of IndexedDB to store all the information. It's a bit like a MySQL, local MySQL. We click on that. We can see all the posts, and we will learn how to use IndexedDB with a number of different libraries to make it easy. We also saw that we got contacts. We saw how they could be done on and offline. That's slow 3G, my apologies, offline. There we go, we're going to posts, contacts, and we also saw how we could send a form whilst offline. This form hasn't been saved. This one is a dynamically one, though we could add it in the pre-cache. So what we'll do is we'll go back into online, and it gives us an opportunity to see it being added to the cache API. If we look in here, we do not have that form, but if we come down here, we will see that when we go into forms, we can see now it's being added to the dynamic cache, although it could be part of the pre-cache. In this case, we've just left it as dynamic cache. So if we go into the form, let's go offline again. As a recap, detected, put in some data here. We can see straight away that it's in the application. We store it in the local forage. In this particular case, there's the form data. And now as soon as we come back online, we get a confirmation message if we so choose using the notification feature API. So that is the application that we build in the course, and we work through a set of exercises taking each element with boilerplate code, and then the whole series can be taken home with a resource file of future links. And we also examine where some of the very useful resources are, because there's a great many free resources on Google and other sites that have boilerplate code to make it much easier to build a progressive web app.